Resident Evil Zero is the only game in the main franchise that I've never beaten, so I decided that it was time to finally give the game a go, and oh boy, I have mixed feelings on this one. I went in completely blind and honestly didn't know what to expect. I thought the entire game took place on the train and was a bit disappointed that it ended up in a facility that resembled the Spencer Mansion. I was even more disappointed when I finally rolled credits and realized that the narrative didn't add anything to the original Resident Evil. In fact, I think I'm more confused as to how Rebecca shows up at the Spencer Mansion and isn't an immediate threat to every enemy in the area. She was rocking a Magnum near the end of Zero. What happened to it? How did she arrive at the mansion worse off considering all she experienced? I'm rambling. I really thought this game conceptually had a number of really good ideas. It was just hit and miss. But anyway, let's talk about my experience playing through Resident Evil Zero. To start, I think the train section was actually a pretty good introduction. A lot of fun going through this area, even though for me, I spent a lot of time trying to acclimate to the partner mechanics. It was a bit jarring for me first because I kept swapping like an idiot, although it was funny to watch Billy and Rebecca just nod at each other for no reason. I do think that the train overall had a very cool visual aesthetic, even though it had quite possibly the lamest boss in Resident Evil. I'm not gonna lie, I thought there was more to this boss than just being an oversized scorpion that walked up to you begging to be shot in the head. I got knocked around a couple of times, but then just realized that I could just stand there and shoot down until it died. I really did think there was more to this, and when I told my buddy what had happened, his response was, yeah, you're going to see a lot more of this soon, which did not give me much confidence. But I also told him that I liked the fact that the game was separating you from your partner and then forcing you to make decisions about who goes where, which I think is a really cool idea. But he then tried to tell me that while that is cool, and it's a nice concept for a game that came out in 2002, there is a lot of backtracking, and you don't really notice that at first until you get to the training facility. And also, how did Billy, who I purposefully sent all the way to the end of the train with a key card, survive this? Now that I've successfully made my way into the training facility, this is where I learned that the inventory management that makes up this game was going to be a chore. I mean challenge. No, I meant chore. This is probably what makes Resident Evil Zero difficult. It's not the enemies, it's the fact that I have to drop items and then forget about them until the game reminds me that the item exists and is required to advance. That part, which is a running theme throughout this game, sucks. And I'm looking at the hook shot specifically because seriously, I went through the entire training facility, navigating through the weird mimics who are an absolute nightmare to avoid or fight, eliminating hordes of zombies, getting a real shotgun, which to me was the actual MVP of the game, solving all of these different puzzles, beating up a centipede, which, by the way, I don't think constitutes as a boss fight, and I'm ashamed that I received an achievement for beating it because what is this? Huh. So that's it. That can't be a boss fight, dude.
Rebecca!
Afterward, I end up opening up the basement, saving Rebecca from these infected monkeys who also happen to suck, by the way. You can get stun locked so fast because it's never just one monkey, it's always three. Why do they need to challenge me in threes, Capcom? I don't understand this hellish design. But anyway, I do all of this, I acquire 3 stone tablets because why not, and I end up standing in front of this church. I use Rebecca as a statue to unlock the front door because That's a small puzzle, and it feels slightly disrespectful because we can't just find a rock to do what she does. I mean, sure. All of that to face this stupid bat. And I mean it. I hate this fight. It's so dumb, wasting my grenades and shotgun ammo, and the way it's set up makes no sense. You walk in, trigger nothing. Go to the save room, leave, and then get a random cutscene of a big old bat who wants to scrap for some reason. Sure, whatever. The fight would take no time at all if this bat did not summon his little minions who can force your aim elsewhere. Whatever. Still killed it. Once that's taken care of, I end up getting a camera angle that acts as a massive reminder to get the hook shot, an item that takes up 2 spaces and is only used in a handful of areas. Joy. Backtracking to get the hook shot is a pain, and I'll tell you why. Because once you acquire all 3 stone tablets, you have to shift around the observatory, which means to backtrack to the main area in the training facility, you gotta go to this new section. You know what's waiting for you right there? Monkeys. 3 of them. Of course there's 3. Why wouldn't there be? The hook shot might go down as the one item in all of Resident Evil that has fooled me multiple times in terms of its usefulness. Because once you get to the top of the roof, you drop a ladder, you pick up Rebecca, and you head straight to the lab. And here the lab has a better flow, in my opinion, than any other area in the game because Rebecca and Billy are separated and must complete individual tasks while facing similar enemies. Well, I mean, outside of the Marcus mimics, Billy has to face hunters, and those can be a pain too, but the shotgun solves all problems. This whole section to me was great. You get to use Rebecca's mixing kit, you get to learn a little more about Umbrella's research, and you don't have to babysit your partners. That's a big plus in my book. I just think that overall, the lab is a solid, well-made area. Now, while I was distracting myself with a good time and eventually reached the point where Rebecca and Billy could be reunited, I was confused for a bit because I knew how to get into this room that would help me operate the tram. I just didn't know how. I'm kidding. This obscure angle that looks up if you place yourself in a position directly under the office will tell you that you need the hook shot. So what do you think I did then? I backtracked. I'm also kidding. I actually dropped it off right outside of the office because it's a save room. But imagine if I left it at the church. That elevator ride would have pissed me off. Anyway, once you get the tram set up, somehow Billy and Rebecca cannot fight off a single monkey. It actually knocks Billy off, which, sure. And Rebecca has to fight off a Marcus mimic by herself, which once again, sure. You do get a sweet magnum for your troubles, and then because Billy fell to his supposed death, you just carry on as if nothing happened. This is one of the moments with the narrative that I was kind of bothered by because the way Rebecca treats Billy as the game goes along, she softens her tone a lot. And I really thought there'd be like this emotional moment on the tram, and to Rebecca's credit, she didn't give a shit. I don't blame her. But what happens next is weird. Not because the factory is a strangely short area, but it's because you meet up with Enrico and he exercises the most baffling judgment. Take a look.
Don't shoot! You're alive.
Are you okay, Rebecca?
Where is everybody?
They should have arrived here before me. Haven't you seen them? That's unfortunate. If we go straight from here, we should arrive at an old mansion which Umbrella uses for research. Come on, let's go.
Wait! I've got to find Billy.
Billy Cohen? You mean you found that criminal?
Yes, but we got separated and...
No point worrying about him. He won't make it. Come on, let's go.
Sir, please. I need to find him. Don't worry, I'll catch up with you.
Rebecca... All right. Just be careful.
I never saw him again.
So instead of Enrico grabbing Rebecca and forcing her to come with him because of how dangerous the situation is, and him actively acknowledging that Billy was a lost cause, he just lets her stay. You know, the most junior person in all of Stars. The 18-year-old. The medic. No combat experience. None of that stuff. Just left her alone to face off against the horrors of this facility by herself. Vice Captain of the Year right there. After this baffling and largely inconsequential meetup, I fought the Tyrant, which I think is the prototype, and I wasn't expecting it to be in such close quarters, so kudos there, because that was really fun. Thankfully, my new best friend, the Magnum, was able to give the Tyrant the what for, and I was able to move on to what would be the last area of the game, the treatment facility. This area also has a pretty good flow to it. You end up reuniting with Billy. Shocking he's not dead. But I do need someone to explain to me how this large fish, or whatever the hell it is, doesn't kill him. What type of plot armor is Billy rocking? Because he does not show up in any Resident Evil game afterwards. I don't even think he's even mentioned. Let me check the wiki. Now, none of these count. Not even the Umbrella Chronicles, which is not a bad light gun game, by the way. Why he's never mentioned, I'll never know. It's probably because his actions were inconsequential to the overarching story, and I don't know if he was even well liked as a character. I think he's okay, though.
Roger.
Peep the fit. Very clean and respectable. Anyway, the treatment facility actually blows by pretty quickly. You get naked zombies, hunters, Marcus mimics, gross bugs, and this frog. I don't know what this frog's deal is, by the way. He grabbed me and then just went away. I thought he was going to kill me or eat me, but I don't know. He's just kind of there. I don't know what to do with him. Regardless, the treatment facility moves like it's the end of the game, and if you've played any of the main entries, you're going to be armed to the teeth because there will be boss fights. Although I will say the Tyrant fight was shockingly easy. Just roam around the area until it dies from gunshots and acidic rounds. It's super easy. What I didn't like, though, was that you had one somewhat involved puzzle that had to do with crates. I actually liked this. You had to constantly swap between Billy and Rebecca to set this up. But the final puzzle, which required you to combine all this fluid to create a battery so that you could get a forklift to get a key card, just felt off. Because why do I need to use crates to get to these places when Rebecca can just stand on Billy's shoulders while on the crate? I mean, there's a tablet that required an entire crate section, and yeah, I guess it was just the early 2000s. But with that keycard acquired, I'm now on to the final boss. But the reason why I say this section has a pretty good flow is because you actually have to backtrack some to get to a save room, because doing all of this again, all these different fights, all these different puzzles, would have killed my motivation to complete the game, even though I was really close. And at this point, it was waning. I can tolerate a lot when it comes to older games. I'm a massive Resident Evil fan, but the constant partner swapping and inventory management was really getting to me. Luckily, this was the end, and the final boss fights were something. Here's where you fight the Queen, but before that, you get this exposition dump about who this mysterious young man you've been chasing around this entire time was, and it turns out to just be Marcus resurrected. And honestly, it adds nothing. It did nothing for me. That's kind of disappointing, but the design of the Queen is cool, right? And I think forcing the characters during the fight to separate themselves to ensure they cover different angles to do max damage and draw aggro, that's a neat idea. Problem is, the boss wasn't too threatening. And I kind of felt like with the way the environment looked that this could have played a role, but no, I just shot the Queen until you receive that fake boss death that makes up almost every Resident Evil game, especially the early ones. Moving into the next save room told me that things were about to get serious because the amount of resources there were a dead giveaway. And I'll admit, I actually liked the final encounter found here in Resident Evil 0. It starts off fairly standard, and then it requires Billy to protect Rebecca and stall long enough for her to release all these valves, which can be kind of stressful because you have to manage your ammo. The fact that the Queen is weak to light is definitely something, but I thought overall this was a fun encounter. The ending, though, was super disappointing. You're gonna tell me that these two characters experienced hell together and then just went their separate ways. How does Billy not try to stop her, or at least convince her not to go, seeing the close proximity that the facility has to the mansion? Am I thinking about this too much? Because seriously, I think it's dumb. Also, that explosion was massive, and I assume that just like the Spencer Mansion, it was probably felt underground as well, so it should have shook the entire area. Okay, I'm just thinking about this too much. Overall, Resident Evil 0 was just okay. For me, at least. I think the partner swapping mechanic in conjunction with the inventory management system made the game artificially longer. I do really feel like this game could have been beaten in under 4 hours, but the constant backtracking and partner management just felt tedious. I understand what Capcom was trying to do to make a more difficult Resident Evil game, but I feel like the concepts themselves just were not executed well. This is probably the first Resident Evil title that I do not want to replay on any difficulty, because even though I have a better grasp of the mechanics and levels, I just wasn't having that good of a time. Also, I have no clue what Resident Evil 0 adds to the main entries. I don't. Just felt like a side story that didn't need to be told, even though I do like Rebecca and Billy. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think, because this is going to do it for this video. If you happen to like the content, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. I am Ken from Pixelated Thoughts, and I will talk to you next time.
I guess it's time to say goodbye. Officially, Lieutenant Billy Cohen is dead.
Yeah, I'm just a zombie now. Thank you, Rebecca.